Hi, sorry about the beginning of that stream. I forgot to turn on my mic. But you got to hear the excerpts anyway, though sadly they went better the first time around. My name is Dr. Dürk Wright, one of the co-owners of Houghton Horns, and I am here to talk about the Lewis Dürk LDx5. Now, you may have noticed, those of you who watch these streams on a regular basis, that I've already talked about the Lewis Dürk LDx5, but it was 2 years ago. The videos have improved, and there are some more things I want to say, and I also kind of want to cover it in a different format. As you may have noticed, I started off the stream this time with playing, and that's based on feedback from some people who listen to these streams. They just want to hear the horn played. So for those people, you have heard the horn played. Thank you for watching. Before everyone else who would like to know a little bit about the horn, you can stick with me and we'll talk about all of the features and I'll give commentary on them. My chat is open and I will be looking at chat at the end of the stream. Okay, so let's talk about the LDx5. I'm gonna actually bring up the spec list here. We're gonna go down it and talk about it. So first, let's talk about the options available on this horn. So this is a custom horn. So what that means is that you can order it in many other configurations over its standard configuration. The standard configuration is, of course, detachable bell with a nickel silver lead pipe, yellow brass, spun bell flare. And how do people come up with the standard configuration? Usually the standard configuration is just what is agreed upon by the maker, the dealer, and others to be the best sounding version of the horn. But that being said, just because a horn sounds good and performs well for one person, another person may have different requirements or may want something different out of the horn. So this horn can be made in gold brass or nickel silver. So for those of you who don't know, gold brass is a softer metal than yellow brass, and nickel silver is a harder metal. So the gold brass, being a softer metal, actually promotes a more mellow sound, and the nickel silver, being harder metal, promotes a brighter sound. Now, I always have to say this every time I say that. Yes, the Con 8D is made out of nickel silver. Yes, the Con 8D has a dark sound, but it's not because of the nickel silver. The nickel silver ends up acting as a tempering agent to a horn that would sound even darker and more mellow in yellow brass or gold brass. This is the Rhenish model. So the Rhenish model was something that we came up with at Houghton Horns. We saw the LDx5 and we liked it, but we wanted the sound to be a little more, we thought it could be a little more compact, a little more complex. And we achieved that by having the F branch here soldered onto the bell tail. So those two pieces here are soldered together. And the lead pipe is soldered onto the bell tail here. So we have a lead pipe soldered and a F branch soldered. And although that may seem like a minor change, it does make a pretty big difference in the way the horn plays and the way the horn sounds. The other options are the Boston model and the standard option. The other things you can have done, we order our standard with an adjustable pinky hook. Although the adjustable pinky hook can be fixed if wanted, it can also be ordered with an adjustable handrest, which is how I always have my horns configured, because I really like the handrest and I believe it reduces tension in the left hand, thus reducing the tension that you're using while playing overall. I don't know who said this quote, but it is very true. Tension kills sound. Tension always kills sound. You can also add a second water key here. So standard, we have a water key on the lead pipe. You can also order a water key here on the F branch. That's another thing that I do have on my horn. I do appreciate the second water key. And you can have the bell hand hammered, and something that is rarely seen, not unique to Dürk because Alexander does it as well, but a hand hammered bell tail. So the hand hammered bell tail is put under more stress during the building process. So more hammering, more forming. And what that does is it makes the metal a little bit harder and a little ringier. When I've played the hand hammered bell tail compared to a regular bell tail, I don't notice so much a difference in sound as I notice a difference in feel. So the hand hammering of the bell tail makes the horn feel a little more open. So if you try the LDx5 and you're thinking, hey, I really like this horn, but I wish it had a more open, free blowing feel, then the hand hammered bell tail and hand hammered flare may be right for you. And our standard model is unlacquered, but it can be lacquered if that is what you prefer. At Houghton Horns, we tend to order, anytime we can, we tend to order the horns to be unlacquered. And we do that because of the sound. I can tell you it is really hard to maintain unlacquered instruments and keep them shiny in a showroom. And, you know, a new horn, the expectation is usually that the horn is shiny, at least at the point of purchase. But we do it anyway because we feel like an unlacquered horn just has a better breadth of sound. And also you may think that the lacquer actually prevents against wear, and it does to a certain extent. But when the lacquer starts to wear through, it doesn't wear through evenly. So you get spots of lacquer coming off, and then the acidic sweat in your hands starts to affect the metal unevenly. And you get this phenomenon called pitting, where the surface of the horn isn't nice and smooth anymore. And that's a phenomenon that doesn't happen with an unlacquered instrument. But of course, there are some there are valid reasons for lacquering an instrument. Number one, a lacquered instrument will look prettier. That's just a thing. It will look prettier. A lacquered instrument, for some, if you have metal sensitivities, can really help with that. This lacquer is not going to help you if you are full on allergic to brass, but if you have some reaction to it, like a small irritation, that can help. It also helps prevent green hands, which green hands has never been a problem for me. But for some people, some combination of the chemistry of their sweat and oils causes them to have a green color on their hand after putting the hand in the bell and playing for an extended period of time. So lacquer can help prevent that as well. Okay, so let's get down to the specs. Double horn, which is the horn that most people should be playing. Valves, conical precision valves. Well, I'm going through the spec list because some of the specs are important. Some of the specs are just there to just fill out the list, and this is one of them. Most valves are conical, and most valves are precision. We test the valves of the horns we get into the shop, and of the new horns, they always blow below a 1, so a 0.1, 0.2 is usually the range of a new horn. So in general, as I've mentioned before, we are kind of in a golden age of horn making. There are a lot of great horns out there, and there are also a lot of great tight valves. As far as the conical portion, a conical valve, although you can't see it holding the valve because it's very, very subtle by just by millimeters, the valve curves inward, and that allows it to sit in the casing in a more secure manner. Now, not every maker uses cylindrical valves. Sorry, not every maker uses conical valves. Some makers do use cylindrical valves. And if not made well, those can have some issues with uneven wear. The most notorious of the conical valves were the Con 8Ds made in Abilene during the 1970s. So the horns made in Elkhart had conical valves. The horns made in Eastlake had conical valves, but the horns made in Abilene had cylindrical valves. But again, there are some very prominent makers today who do use cylindrical valves, and they're generally pretty good. So I don't want that to be known as conical is better than cylindrical, but especially if the cylindrical valves are well made. But that is the difference between the two. Okay, basic model, B flat F or F B flat, easy to switch. And I can attest to that because I play my horn standing in B flat these days, so I had to switch this horn around before the live stream, and I'll switch it back around after the live stream. Okay, so the pitch from A440 to A443. Now, I'm actually glad to give a range. Usually horn makers will just put the top of the range there, like 443, 445. That's, again, something that you don't really have to worry about. In general, you're not going to be playing with the slides all the way in. And the slides all the way in will allow you to play in almost every situation, whether you're playing in a European orchestra where the pitch is very high, or an American orchestra where the pitch is just trending high accidentally. it should be fine. My screen has come off. One moment. Okay, so the bore is 12.1 millimeters. So for those of you who are used to thinking of it in inches, that is 0.476 inches, which is on the larger side of bores. Bores generally range from 0.468 inches to 0.476 inches. And by bore, a lot of times the word bore is misused, and people use bore for the bell size. Those are two completely different measurements. The bore has nothing to do with the bell size. The bore has to do with the size of the cylindrical tubing. So if you pull out a slide, the inside measurement of that cylindrical tubing will be the bore. So the inside of this would be 12.1 millimeters or 0.476 inches. In reality, I see people going over spec lists and worrying about this. In general, it's nothing you need to worry about. Yes, if you take a horn with a 0.468 bore and you do it directly against a 0.476 bore horn, the one with the larger bore, the 0.476, will feel more free blowing. However, there are so many other things about a horn that have far more effect on how free blowing a horn is, such as the taper of the lead pipe, the taper of the first branch, the size of the bell, the wrap. So many other factors influence the quote free blowing feel of a horn. So I really think it would be folly to only focus on like 12.1 millimeter horns, or 0.476 millimeter horns, because of course that's going to have a nice, it's going to be free blowing. That's not the case. And in general, I think this horn, as far as free blowingness, is kind of middle of the pack. It's not too free blowing, and it's not too restrictive, which is, it's at a good point that I like, because a lot of times people will go for the most free blowing horn, but free blowing horns also promotes a waste of energy. Because you can blow more, a lot of people will adapt and they will blow more, using more air and energy than is necessary. Okay, valve. Okay, and this spec list is valve drive, but it's just a mechanism. So that's another customization I missed. This can be string or it can be mechanical, although most people choose string. And in general, I believe string is the best choice because string is quiet and string is adjustable. Now the thumb lever is mechanical, and that is hitting something. It's hitting, push the lever back. So this mechanical linkage is pretty quiet because it is a mini ball linkage. So good German mini balls are usually nothing to worry about as far as mechanical linkages are concerned. But I would still stick with the standard configuration, which is string linkages on 1, 2, 3, and a mechanical linkage on the thumb. Okay. Valve screw caps, nickel silver, well, that's most horns. Okay, so a nice thing about this horn is that the thumb paddle is adjustable. So you just take a hex wrench that comes with the horn, and you can take that and you can move the thumb paddle wherever you need it in order to fit your hand. Right before doing this live stream, I had to adjust it myself and adjust it up because I have large hands and I need the thumb paddle to be near the top here in order for me to have a comfortable grip. Speaking of adjustable features on this horn has a great feature where the receiver is removable. So if I reach over here for the care kit, which was an easy reach. There it is. So aside from Dürk has always done very well in a presentation of their horns. This care kit's very nice. It's a nice custom printed box. You get this service guarantee card, which lays out, some lubrication, cleaning, repair, and parts instructions. And then you have a little area where you could take it to the repairman who did cleaning and servicing of your horn, and they can mark it down here. Now, I don't know if anyone has ever brought one to our shop to have them fill out the card, but it is something that you can do. And it's weird this is called a service guarantee card because there's no warranty or anything described in this card. But of course, if you buy a new horn from Houghton Horns, you will get a 2-year warranty. Now, I have totally become distracted because this horn comes with it actually comes with a 5-cent euro coin, but you can of course use a penny, and you can use that to unscrew the receiver. Let me take one more look here because I want to describe how the receiver comes out. All right, found it. A nice 5-euro coin from España. And you take out your mouthpiece, and the end of the receiver here has these notches so that you can put any coin in, and then you can use the coin to remove it. Other makers, specifically Finca and Otto, also have removable receivers, but they don't have the neat coin system, which makes it very easy to remove. So this is a Morse receiver here. I'm going to get a little closer. I'm not sure it's going to focus on that. And if you want to put in a Euro receiver, you just go ahead and you put the Euro receiver in. You screw it back in, and you tighten it up with the coin. Okay, so we take a look at some of the other features of the horn. So the lead pipe on this horn is nickel silver, which is standard for Lewis lead pipes and Lewis horns. If anyone's seen a regular Steve Lewis horn, they all have nickel lead pipes, and I really like that. Nickel is a very hard metal, and it's long lasting. So nickel silver is not susceptible to red rot, so that's something that you don't have to worry about on your lead pipe, which is one of the areas of the horn most susceptible to red rot if you have a yellow brass lead pipe. And it, unlike a gold brass lead pipe, it's harder, so it's just going to stand up to more use. As far as sound is concerned, I think the nickel silver pipe just adds a little more edge, a little more fire to the sound, which I appreciate. But if you don't appreciate that, I would go with a gold brass lead pipe, but I don't think that's actually available on the LDX5. I think all Lewis lead pipes are made of nickel silver, including all of the lead pipes that are used on this LDX5. Of which, by the way, the Dürk receiver system here that I just demonstrated, I have seen a recently built Lewis that went to a prominent player that did utilize this receiver. So that would make me believe that regular Lewis horns are utilizing this Dürk receiver, which is a really great design. Okay, so bell diameter of 310 millimeters. That's pretty standard for most horns. Some older horns have a larger bell diameter, but 310 millimeters is very, very standard. Valve slides, inners, and outers are made of nickel silver on the Rhenish model. There are some other configurations of the horn that do have yellow brass, and that will change the sound. And I have an old Geyer horn which has yellow brass inner and outer slide tubes, but you do need to be aware that um, the reason why most horns have nickel silver slide tubes and slide legs is because they wear less. Nickel silver is a harder metal. It can stand up to far more pulling, pushing, and adjusting of the slides without the slides becoming loose and wanting to start to fall out and lose compression. Nickel silver can stand up to that a lot longer than yellow brass can. All right, screw ring made of bronze. That's also pretty standard. Although some makers like Rikokun and Yamaha utilize nickel silver. But bronze is a very hard wearing metal, and so is nickel silver. So you're good with either one of those materials. Bell, medium, the designation of medium for a bell is very subjective. I would call this a medium horn too. But just for anyone reading any of these descriptions or going, or researching horns, know that in comparison, among brands, medium, large, it doesn't really mean anything. It's really, really subjective as to what those terms mean. Okay. And I think that is it as far as the spec list here. While playing this horn, I really like it. It's quite different from my usual double horn, which is a Medlin. This is a little more resistant, and I think if I were going to play this long term, I would have to get used to that. But in some ways, I believe that this horn is truly a bargain. Now, this horn currently in February of 2024 costs $10,300. So you might be thinking to yourself, well, it's over $10,000. Well, how is that a bargain? But I do believe that this horn really competes with custom horns. So you're talking competing with a custom Lewis, competing with a Medlin, competing with a Rheight, competing with a Lucas, all these other custom horns. It is a true American style Geyer style horn, which can hold its own in any professional orchestra without need to upgrade. So compared to the 15, 16, 17, even $20,000 that those other horns I mentioned can fetch, 10,300 starts to sound a lot more like a great deal. So as part of this new format, I'm going to try to keep these videos a little more compact. So I'm going to go to the chat and see if there have been any questions. One moment, I forgot to log into the chat. I'm so sorry if you did leave a message. It looks like I, um, I'm not sure if no one has left any messages or if I don't see them if I don't log in. So thank you everyone for watching. I really appreciate it. All of your time spent watching these videos. I will be at the Southeast Horn Workshop in Athens, Georgia this weekend. So if you're there, please stop by and say hi. I would love to, talk French horn with you and show you some of the items that I'm bringing with me. Okay, I have actually one. I have one message here. So from Jeremy, I'm flying down to DFW this weekend to try this very horn and a few others in the shop. I would love to hear more about it compared to the X293 in golden cut. Okay, the W293, the Schmidt, Engelbert Schmidt golden cut, and the Paxman 20 MYDC. That's a very good question. The Rico Kuhn is going to be a much lighter feeling horn, so it's going to be a little easier to play. It's going to be, I say lighter feeling. I don't know if it's actually physically lighter, but what you're going to notice between those two horns is a big difference in sound. So the LDx5 is going to have a far more compact and complex sound. The 293 will be a little less complex, but it will be a little rounder, and easier and freer. So I don't know if any of that makes sense, but that's how I would compare that to the Kuhn. My comparison to the Schmidt would be the same, but more to the extreme. The Schmidt is a physically lighter horn, and the Schmidt is going to respond a lot easier, but the sound is going to be much simpler. And by simple, I don't mean that as a negative. It's just, to my ear, the level of overtones that I hear. So the LDx5 is going to have more overtones, more of a complex sound. If you play loudly, more of an aggressive sound. Well, the golden cut is going to generally stay round and smooth throughout the range. And then the Paxman 20 is going to be just a bit. The Paxman 20 has kind of a more veiled sound. A more veiled, slightly more in the lower overtones than the upper overtones than the LDx5. But because of the Merriweather system on the Paxman 20, it's going to be a lot smoother. So really, you can't beat the slurs on a Paxman. Which, by the way, when I did my Paxman stream, I forgot to mention one really important thing about the Merriweather system. So the Merriweather system is not just that the air goes through the valve section of both sides of the horn in the same direction. It is that direction is also along with the turning of the valves. So you never have a valve turning against the airstream. It's always turning with the airstream. And that allows for smoother sound, smoother slurs, and less interference with the airstream. And then, okay. And I think that is all of the questions that I am seeing. Hopefully you're not taking these horns out of the shop this weekend for the workshop. No, I'm not actually. The horns I'm taking to the workshop are all horns that we had a second horn of in the shop. So we sent off the horns for the workshop yesterday, and I will have a Paxman 20 with me at the workshop, but there is a Paxman 20 in the shop. I will have an LDx5 at the workshop, but this LDx5 will also be at the shop. what else did I take with me? So we're going to have some Varus horns. So we'll have the Varus Chicago and the Varus 5. And yeah, okay, I'm totally blanking out. But we'll have plenty of horns at the workshop and plenty of horns at the shop for you to try. Okay, thank you everyone for watching, and I'll see you next week. There will be no live stream this Friday because of the aforementioned Southeast Horn Workshop. So I'll see you next Tuesday for another live stream. Thank you, everyone.